right, I want to jump in and change the topic to something that is on the minds of so many people in this state every single week, and that is childcare, which is either exorbitantly expensive, so they can't afford it, or it's simply not even available, so they don't have any place to take their children. This is not an easy issue necessarily for the federal government to address, but Demi Kouzounas, what specific proposals would you have if you were in the U.S. Senate to address the problem of childcare?
As a mother myself, I had to deal with it. For my oldest child, for a while I had an older lady that was a nanny, and for my son, which I thought was a great idea, is we had visiting nurses services that were working in conjunction with the high schools. And my son went to this daycare, and it was perfect. Some of the young teenagers at the high school were learning how to be child care providers. There were a couple of girls that were there that were actually pregnant and were involved with childcare, and it was a great partnership. That I can tell you, my 3-year-old loved going to that childcare. So that's one partnership. I think you can do a little bit of a partnership with private and public type of facilities to try to fix this problem. Because here's the thing, for women to work today, they have to feel safe and make sure that their children are in a good situation, so that they can be comfortable at work. So it is a humongous problem.
David Costello.
Again, what the federal government can do is provide more resources, more funding to state and local jurisdictions. And what I support is universal pre-K and aftercare. And much of that could take place in schools. Obviously, we'd have to provide a lot more resources in schools. I worked out of the mayor's office in Baltimore City. We tried to establish community schools where you've got wraparound services as well as childcare. And I think that's the most cost-effective from an economic standpoint. Sending a kid to daycare is like sending them to college. So we've got to do a much better job, and the federal government's tools are really about resources, and applying them nationally would be the most cost-effective. I'd also do a paid family and medical leave program out of the federal government as well, provide those kind of resources.
Jason Cherry addressing child care again through the federal government.
Through the federal government, first of all, we're definitely going to have to get the tax basis fair and collecting taxes before anything. So the Congressional Budget Office will need to look at these bills, and this bill is a good one. You look at any industrialized nation, they look to all genders to man the economy or staff the economy. So we need for our counterparts, the people that stay at home, to be able to work and to be able to protect their children. So I do approve of universal pre-K and after school, because if we have a labor force, our best person, our best partner in that is going to need childcare, and one of the parents is going to need to provide that.
Senator King, I want to let you take this question.
Number one, I'm glad you asked it, because it's one of the number one things I hear when I'm out in the community. And one thing we haven't touched on is staff. I have a friend who lost their child care slot for their little boy because the child care center couldn't hire enough staff. So we need to figure out how to surge people into certain professions that we desperately need. Child care is one, mental health is one, education is another. The other piece is, I believe child care is going to have to become a kind of joint responsibility of the private sector and the public sector, and it'll be like health insurance. Our companies offer health insurance as a benefit for their workers. A lot of companies in Maine are now offering child care and developing child care centers as part of the perks, that, if you will, of working for that company. I do think there's a responsibility for the federal government to assist in that. And one way to think about this is, if you enable someone's children to be safe in childcare, they go to work, then they're paying taxes. So there's an income thing, an income piece that comes from having good childcare.